So let's get to the big ones. So Saturday night, the Peacock game in Kansas City. You got the mainstream media showing up the coldest NFL games of all time. I mean, these are legendary. The Ice Bowl between the Packers and the Cowboys. For those of us of a certain age, we remember that Bengals-Chargers AFC championship in 1981. Could this rival that? What is the current forecast in Kansas City for the Chiefs and the Dolphins?
Yeah, every time I look at the numbers, it keeps coming up colder and colder,
Wow.
and it was already pretty damn cold. Latest numbers, I've got the kickoff temperature at 0 degrees. During the game, I think it's going to drop below 0, and that's with a 15-mile-per-hour wind. So the feels-like temperature should be somewhere between 20 and 25 degrees below 0 in this game. As a general rule, I generally say, look, it's cold, it's going to be fine, it's not a big deal. But the cold does matter on the extremes, right?
Yes.
If it's 32, the cold doesn't really matter. If it's 0 with a feels like temperature of 25 below 0, then it does start to matter. That's when you see that correlation between scoring and temperature start to increase. The total has only dropped 1 point from where it opened in this game. And I would not be surprised to see that cold air and the 15-mile-per-hour wind impacting the game more than people think it will.
Yeah, Chiefs 4.5-point favorites. The point you made there, I think, is the interesting one. By the way, total at 44, which is, it doesn't matter if it's 32 degrees, but if it's 0 degrees, it matters. Just to use those two markers. And so, the logic also follows that the colder it gets, because the narrative that all football handicappers are bringing up is, well, I mean, the Dolphins, look at the history of Tua, look at the history of the Dolphins in the postseason and cold games, just cold games in general. But at a certain point, it's so cold, right? Like, let's just use a ridiculous, let's say it was minus 50. Okay, well, it doesn't matter if you're from Miami or wherever at that point, right? 0 degrees is kind of drifting that way too, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel that way a lot when people use these narratives about, oh, well, this guy's from Miami or they're playing. The cold has the same effect on our bodies no matter what. Both teams are going to be impacted by this. It's going to be tough to kick long field goals. It's not going to be great throwing and catching. That ball, as much as they try to keep it warm, is going to end up like a rock. It's just not great conditions all around, whether you're talking for Kansas City or for Miami.
That's for sure. You're from Florida, Kelly. You never played in cold, did you? Before?
Yeah, not
too.
Much. It sounds miserable.
Oh, it like, again, for those of us who were raised in an era where when you're 8 years old, you're playing full pad football. The pain of getting hit in the cold, you cannot even fathom. And obviously these guys getting hit by the greatest athletes in the world. All right, and then because I think that's the big thing I take away, because I have a Dolphins bet, and I feel like I'm the only human being on earth that has the Dolphins in this game, bucking that narrative of oh boy, these guys from Miami are going to have a tough time. I think everybody's going to have a tough time. Then it's the wind in Buffalo, which is a whole nother animal. We've heard anywhere between 30 miles per hour Sunday morning to 50. What do you got now?
Okay. Agreed that the big one in Buffalo is the wind, right? And sports bettors know this. Temperature, sure, it matters a little. Rain, if it's pouring, that matters. Snow matters a bit. But wind is the big one. That's what we're always looking for. The latest numbers in Kansas City here, in Buffalo, the temperature should be in the low 20s. There's a chance for some snow showers. Again, precipitation we won't know until a little closer to the game. Latest winds are coming in sustained at 20 miles per hour, and I'm seeing wind gusts anywhere between 30 to 40 miles per hour. I don't think we're going to see 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts here, but I feel very confident they're going to be up over 30, and that is an impactful wind when combined with cold weather and potential snow showers and wind gusts. We'll call it 35. That is impactful weather. There's no doubt about it. And I do expect, we've seen the total drop in this, and I still think there's room below where the total is now.
Yeah, and
that's something we saw the last couple weeks, is that the total dropped on these bad weather games and the under still hit well below even where the total ended up. And I think this might be a case of people not realizing how much the winds and the weather could matter in this game.
And that total is 36, what Kevin's referring to. Steelers catching 10. I took the Steelers plus 10 because to me, in this kind of weather, it's got to even the playing field, even though Buffalo's best play is still Josh Allen tucking it under and running. What about that game? Just last thing, Kevin, we only have a minute left. There was that Bills-Patriots game, if you recall. I want to say it was during the pandemic, but the wins, it was like the wins were referred to as crosswinds. Is that sort of what we can expect? I don't know how much like specific stadium knowledge you have, but is that sort of what we're talking about?
I could probably look it up. What, I got 30 seconds here?
Yeah, you got about 45. No pressure.
All right.
But that was
era, right? New era field.
Well, that was the thing about that game, that no one even tried to pass the football after a while, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to hit those levels. I've got winds out of the west-southwest, and that's not quite a crosswind, but it's also not going parallel with the field. It's kind of a diagonal wind. It's going to be impactful. I don't think we're going to get to those levels that we saw where they couldn't even punt it. It was boomeranging back at them.
Yeah.
They could barely kick an extra point. We're not going to see that level of impact, but deep throws and long field goals going to be tough in these conditions, and that's going to shave a few points off for sure.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.